PR Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Up Recap here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. And on this edition of Vegas Hockey Up Recap, where we break down every single game of the 2024-2025 season, we are going to be discussing the most recent game that happened where your Vegas Golden Knights take on the Minnesota Wild. And this is a very interesting matchup. There was a lot of twists and turns that happened in this game. There was some aggression. There were some good checks, some good hits. There was even a fight in this game. And there is a lot that we're going to go over here on Vegas Hockey Up Recap. And we're going to cover all of the action between the Vegas Golden Knights and Minnesota Wild here. And we're going to do that in just a second. Getting into the pregame notes of this game, and it's going to be very short and concise. This Vegas Golden Knights team, fully healthy. Every single starter heading into the year is in the lineup for the Vegas Golden Knights. And this is really solid for Vegas. You know, this is going to be an organization that over the past month and a half have really been dealing with some form of injuries. And it's really good to see a Vegas Golden Knights roster that isn't limping. Obviously there's going to be some guys who are probably, they're probably hurting a little bit, but there is nobody on the Golden Knights roster that is out of the game that has a injury. So that's very good news. And having a fully healthy lineup for the Vegas Golden Knights, that is your pre-game note. Now, getting into the starting lineup for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, on line one, you have Ivan Barbashev, Jack Eichel, and Mark Stone. I mean, over the last couple of weeks, there has not been any lineup that has ended up having the most success for the Vegas Golden Knights. Ivan Barbashev, he has been racking up goals. Jack Eichel, well over an assist per game, which is still incredible to think of. And then Mark Stone, who has really been your soul and your captain of the team. He has done relatively well. Alexander Holt, Victor Olofsson, and Tomas Hertl. And focus on Victor Olofsson because we're going to be focusing on him later on in this game. He has an important role here. Tomas Hertl, when it comes to being the power play quarterback, he is a really good player on that second line for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then you have a real productive third line, Brett Howden, William Karlsson, and Pavel Dorofeyev. Dorofeyev and Howden have been bright spots on this team. Then you have the consistency of William Karlsson. And then the fourth line, you have Tanner Pearson, Nicholas Waugh, and Keegan Kolesar. So Kolesar and Waugh, they've been together for a while, pretty much all season long. They've been on the same unit or same pairing. And then Tanner Pearson, the constant on the fourth line, despite who is on that same line with him. He has been on that fourth line. And then defensive pairing-wise, you have Alex Pietrangelo and Noah Hanifin. Alex Pietrangelo made a very great defensive play, but we'll talk about more of that later on in the game. And then Shea Theodore and Braden McNabb. And then you have Nicholas Hague and Zach Whitecloud. So Whitecloud and Hague, Theodore and McNabb. And then Hanifin and Pietrangelo. And then back in net for the Vegas Golden Knights, Aiden Hill has started a few in a row now, but Ilya Samsonov back in net for your Vegas Golden Knights. Now, heading into the first period of this game, and it wasn't even a few minutes in, and Kirill Kaprizov, oh man, this guy, the talented superstar that he is, 21st goal of the season for Kirill Kaprizov. And, I mean, what else can I say besides the fact that talent-wise, this is one of the most talented players in the NHL. And the way he, skates past the defense, locates the puck, gets it to the right area. Really solid job by Kirill Kaprizov. But it was a 1-0 game for the Minnesota Wild. And the Vegas Golden Knights, it really looked like in the first few minutes that Minnesota was really starting to kind of take control in this game. But the Vegas Golden Knights would catch a break as the Vegas Golden Knights halfway into the first period. Frederick Gaudreau, he would end up getting a penalty and would go to the penalty box. And I believe it was interference, if I vaguely recall what the penalty was. But Frederick Gaudreau, he ended up going to the penalty box. Your Vegas Golden Knights would end up being on the power play. And this is where the success of the power play has worked out for the Vegas Golden Knights, as you would have Victor Olofsson would score on the power play for Vegas to tie it up at 1. And Jack Eichel, Shea Theodore with the assist. And Victor Olofsson, we're going to talk more about him later on in this episode. But overall, when it comes to the power play, Shea Theodore and Jack Eichel, they have been your really good players to have on the power play, passing the puck around, getting it to the right read down low or in the middle. And regardless if it's, running the point or getting it to the slot, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, when you see Jack Eichel and you see Shea Theodore both on the power play, just like with Tomas Hertl, just like with Pavel Dorofeyev, like there are certain players that are on the power play and they're designated for a reason with the Vegas Golden Knights. So the success on the power play and to tie up the game at 1. And I'm also going to acknowledge the point streak that Jack Eichel is continuing, as this is his 32nd assist of the season. And, he's still averaging an assist per game. Like, it's actually incredible how, he has scored a few goals. There's no doubt about that. He's scoring some goals for Vegas. But it feels like every single game, he's getting 1 assist, 2 assists. He's even gotten a few 3-assist games throughout this season. And overall, for Jack Eichel, keeping up that momentum that he has had throughout the year. And, like I said, you have credit to Shea Theodore with that assist as well. But Jack Eichel, that point streak does continue. Now, towards the end of the first period, a couple of minutes left in the first, and it would be fight night. Ding, 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 ding. As Keegan Kolesar and Marcus Foligno, they would drop the gloves for the Vegas Golden Knights. And for Keegan Kolesar, he did try to hold his own. And overall, it was a good fight. I enjoyed watching it between Marcus Foligno and Keegan Kolesar. And, overall, when it comes to Foligno, you know what type of player he is. For Keegan Kolesar, we've seen throughout this year what kind of leader he is with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. But overall, at the end of the first period, not only did you have a power play goal for Vegas, but you had a fight as well at the end of period 1. Now, in the second period between Minnesota and Vegas, there would end up being a situation, and we're going to hold off on speculation. We're just going to mention that Ivan Barbashev has suffered a possible injury. Ivan Barbashev was not on the bench for much of the second period. As a matter of fact, in terms of his minutes in this game, he did not play much after the second period for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, it is unknown if he did, in fact, suffer an injury or not. We're going to wait on confirmation on that. But it was a noticeable detail that Ivan Barbashev was not on the bench for much of the rest of the game for the Vegas Golden Knights. And as a matter of fact, they actually ended up having a situation where you had Victor Olofsson. There was also some other guys who filled in that first line with Eichel and with Stone during that situation. But yeah, kind of concerning for the Vegas Golden Knights. It's a team that just, got back healthy. Everybody on that starting lineup is once again back at full strength. And then Ivan Barbashev suffering a possible injury. There was also a situation with Pavel Dorofeyev where there was a shot that was taken a little bit up high. Now, granted, he did play the remainder of the game. Of course, we'll always have to wait and see what happens when a guy gets hit, in the shoulder or gets hit, kind of near the, upper body area. But overall, when it comes to this game, this was an aggressive game, very physical game in terms of wear and tear. Now, in the second period, the Vegas Golden Knights being tied at 1, and would end up being a 2-1 game as Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, they dish it over to Shea Theodore, and he gets it right past Jesper Wallstedt, and it would be a 2-1 game for the Vegas Golden Knights. So Shea Theodore with his second point of the game, good goal for him. Jack Eichel, his second assist of the day, and then you got your captain Mark Stone, who was a good facilitator in that situation. So overall, when it comes to that, 2-1 game. And then later on in the second period, unfortunately for the Vegas Golden Knights, I mean, damn it, when it comes to Kirill Kaprizov, how great of a player he is, as that he would, with some help from Brock Faber, he would get it right past Samsonov and would end up being a 2-2 game at the end of the second period between the Vegas Golden Knights and Minnesota Wild. Now, I understand that, the Minnesota Wild have had a real good, season. All right, I understand the Minnesota Wild, the Winnipeg Jets have been the cream of the crop out there in the Central Division. But, I mean, Kirill Kaprizov, the more you watch him and you get a chance to watch him play in person, I personally got a chance to do that. This is a guy who uses his speed, his elusiveness to his advantage and goes against that defense very well. His hockey IQ is solid out there in Minnesota. So, being tied at 2 after the second period, and this was a type of game where it truly felt like whoever scored next was going to win this game. That's what the energy felt like when you were watching this game. And then getting into the third period, a couple of minutes in, and that goal that I am alluding to that would end up being the game-winning goal would end up coming from Victor Olofsson. So the multi-goal performance by Victor Olofsson and helping the Vegas Golden Knights pick up the victory in this game, making it a 3-2 game. And overall, when it comes to Victor Olofsson, he has had, I would say a quiet season so far. I mean, overall, this is a guy, he's had a few goals here and there, but to have a multi-goal performance and to win the game for the Vegas Golden Knights was solid there. Now, the only other notable thing that I'm going to mention is the fact that there was a Nicholas Waugh penalty with like 15 seconds left in the game between him and Matt Boldy. So that's like the only other slightly thing that you can mention. But overall, the Vegas Golden Knights win this game. And after the situation that happened in the previous game, this is a victory. The Vegas Golden Knights are definitely going to pat themselves on the back and be happy about this matchup. So Vegas Golden Knights, good win for them. And overall, this is going to be moving forward, picking up momentum for your Vegas Golden Knights. Now, player of the game, yes, I could have mentioned the Victor Olofsson because of him having 2 goals here, but the player of the game, because of what he did tonight, has to be Shea Theodore. Shea Theodore having that assist to start out the game, helping out on the first Victor Olofsson goal, and then in the second period to put them up by 1 by scoring that second goal. So overall, when it comes to Shea Theodore, he did his job tonight, and he was solid for the Vegas Golden Knights. So player of the game will go to Shea Theodore. Now, here is the win-loss record for the Vegas Golden Knights organization. And overall, this is an organization, Edmonton. We know what they're all about. We see the win-loss record between Edmonton and Vegas. But, Central Division, Winnipeg, Minnesota, obviously, based on who Vegas just faced. But when it comes to your Vegas Golden Knights, so far, this has been a real solid season. And, I can really sit here and nod my head and say, you know what, your Vegas Golden Knights are doing a real good job. And this has been a solid effort by them. Now, overall, this being a back-to-back night, you lost the first game and then you win the second game on that doubleheader back-to-back nights. And, when it comes to Vegas, doing these back-to-backs has really shown the heads or tails, coin flip that Vegas has kind of undergone this season. when they've gone on back-to-back nights, they don't, win both. They don't lose both. They normally split between those two when they have back-to-back doubleheaders. Now, moving forward, you are going to have 3 days off for the Vegas Golden Knights, and then you're going to have that next game that's going to be, on Thursday. So overall, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, it's going to be really interesting to see how those days off are going to be, when it comes to practice sessions and everything like that and morning skates. But overall, this is a Vegas Golden Knights team where, they're going to stay focused. They're going to be ready, moving forward. And then you're going to have that, few days off to kind of, get everything back up and ready. Obviously, the Ivan Barbashev possible injury, we're going to have an update on that when we do the next edition of Vegas Hockey Recap. You're also going to be in a situation where you're going to look at, for example, the lines, and is there going to be any changes moving forward? And overall, your Vegas Golden Knights, it's going to be real curious to see what happens, because moving forward, you're essentially going to have the next 3 games on every other day. All right, it's going to be Thursday, then Saturday, then Monday. Like, this is going to be a Vegas Golden Knights team where you're not going to get much breaks moving forward. You're going to have maybe 1 day off, in between those. But for the rest of, I will say the next couple of weeks, you're mostly going to be doing, every other day for the Vegas Golden Knights. And we'll be curious to see how Vegas does during that stretch. I understand that there's going to be, 7 games that the Vegas Golden Knights are going to be looking at and really trying to get as many wins on the calendar during that 7-game stretch. But for Vegas, this was a good victory over the Minnesota Wild. And, we saw Edmonton, this is, back-to-back doubleheader, Minnesota, Edmonton for the Vegas Golden Knights. And this was really the tale of 2 stories where the Edmonton Oilers, this is a offensive-minded team. They were scoring goals right down your throat. Whereas Minnesota, on the other hand, that first line was deadly, but then the rest of the time, it was really more of a defensive battle and kind of a chess match between Minnesota and Vegas. So overall, I really like this game. Your Vegas Golden Knights picking up the victory was solid for them. And it'll be curious to see what happens moving forward. Now, I understand that when you're going up against a Canadian team and you're going to be going up against those, Canadian market, Pacific Division, there's the division matchup there. That's going to be what's moving up forward. And, goaltending wise, there have been some injury concerns for the opposing goaltender that's coming up. And then there is the idea about how are you going to stop their superstar on the opposite end. So overall, for the Vegas Golden Knights, I can appreciate what they're doing. And these next 3 days, once again, they're going to regroup and kind of, try to collect themselves. But then you're going to go up against that Canadian team, and you're going to be facing off against a division foe and a team that's really trying to win and kind of build momentum on their self. And Vegas, obviously, winning 5 of their last 7 games. This is a good situation for them. So overall, when it comes to Vegas, if you win 4 out of 6, that's great. If you can win 4 out of 7, that's good. That's what you want. The only thing that you don't want to have is where you lose 4 in a row, or if you lose 4 out of 5, that's what you don't want for Vegas. But if you can win 4 out of 6, or if you can win 4 out of 7, those are good. Those are solid. If you could somehow win 4 in a row, or if you win 4 out of 5 in the National Hockey League, that is exceptional for a team. So, moving forward, we're looking forward to seeing what the Vegas Golden Knights do. Congrats on picking up the victory. And until next time, I'm your host, Ian Rachiele. This is Vegas Hockey Recap, and we will see you next time.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.